Hi James, how are you? How
I'm
are
doing
you?
really well. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this.
Thank you so much for joining this interview of HTBD, How to Do Business in Dubai. So I'll first start with your love, your life, your laughter in Dubai.
So I've been in Dubai for 23 years and I really love the variety
Okay.
when I think of where I live and I think of what I have access to. When I say where I live, what the change just in this country, but the fact that you can go from beach to mountains to plains to anything in between in a day
Yeah.
is pretty extraordinary. So and then each of the different cities that you could possibly happen onto. So if we just take the big ones, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, Al Quwain, Sharjah, Dubai, and as you go to them, they're all very different. So I really love this difference. I love the fact that you can meet so many different groups of people. And I mean, that can be a love and a hate thing, because love it in that you've got all these different groups of people that are cohabitating and mingling together in ideas. So it's a wonderful melting pot for inspiration and things. It can be really frustrating because people also come with their own ideas and
mindset.
You come with your mindset and they've got their mindset, and there can be friction. Well, no, we're not gonna mix and match. We're not. No, I can't see it your way. I can only see it my way. So when you can break through that barrier of no, my way is the best way, and you can start taking different mindsets, different views, and putting them together, magic happens. And so I really love that. I really like that.
You enjoy that in this part of the world.
I mean, you could say, well, it exists everywhere, but I don't think it exists to the same extent because of geography, because and how close we are to Asia and Europe and etc. So and other Arab countries, that it's a very particular environment that brings these groups of people that tend to stay very insular. Actually, I mean, while we walk around together and we do things together, groups of people, groups of cultures tend to stick together, and that can be that piece that creates that barrier to mixing of ideas. And yet it also creates the fact that you have these different groups that are all coming here, and when you can break through and start mixing it, it's magic. And I don't think that happens in a lot of other parts of the world. You get people immigrate, you get people come in, but this part of the world really has such a large volume of ideas that it offers this really wonderful time.
You said it rightly that the proximity of so many markets to this place, and that the dynamic nature, the very much state of the city keeps on changing every now and then. You have new people coming in, you have old people going out, so it's continuously changing. It's pretty dynamic in its nature.
And it forces you as that entrepreneur, you as that person who's doing business, it forces you to constantly be changing. You can't get static. And we sometimes see that in our home countries where, well, this just slowly lumbers along. Here, things change so fast. That you need to be nimble enough to recognize A, that the change is happening, and B, changing the way you're doing something. It could just be small things, but you can't rest. And I think that's exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting indeed. Yeah. So James, what's your job like?
So I came here as a university professor, and I am still a university professor.
Wow.
And I teach communication theory and practice at Zayed University here in Dubai.
Wow.
After about 5 years of living in Dubai, I was really craving the possibility of hearing more radio, like the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC in Canada, so public radio. And I really wanted more of that. So I got into radio. I approached then 99.3 The Better Mix, Radio 2, and said, hey, why can't we create a little bit more conversational radio?
Yeah.
and was given an opportunity, and we did actually on a weekends. We created this weekend show, and it was just for free. I'd get together with the announcers, and we would create this talk content, and then that eventually did its course. And I was really fortunate to be asked by Matthew Johnson from the Arabian Radio Network, who was then a deputy programming director of Dubai Eye, to join Dubai Eye as a night talk show host. And I said no. And Matthew said, no, it's not my thing. I don't do that. And Matthew was very persistent and said, come on, give it a try. And I did, went in, tried the show, fell in love. And then for almost 12 years, I was a night talk show host and daytime radio professor.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing.
So it really offered, by doing radio and talking about communication during the day, but at night, practical application of it.
Communication happens.
And again, that meeting of all sorts of different people and different ideas, it was just a natural connecting point. So it really was very formative for me in this idea that there's opportunities. We're sometimes very averse to change and things that aren't in our wheelhouse. Dubai is the kind of place where, and the UAE is the kind of place where you can do things, and there's opportunities. Would I've ever had that opportunity in Canada? Probably not.
Yeah.
But and for 12 years to do something like that, and then carry on after that finished 12 years of doing that, we carried on with podcasting and similar shows done with podcasting for different motivations, but doing the same kind of things. And the motivation in this sense being to demonstrate to companies and groups that, hey, you're generating a lot of content, you need to be using that content in other ways. And all we're doing with podcasting, so it's great podcasting. I talk about auto mechanic stuff, I talk about DIY, I talk about healthcare. But the real purpose of it is, yes, this is great listening, but this is content that goes on the We Will Fix It page. This is content that goes on the PowerWorks Garage page. This is content that Dr. Jen is using on her medical pages. So it's how do we take that content and apply it in another setting. And so it's all, and it works, and it's got listeners, and it's got a following. But the goal is really for not to exist with me, but to exist with the people who we're doing it for.
That's beautiful.
And again, an idea, you dream it up, give it a try.
Yeah.
If it works, great. If it doesn't work, abandon it, take your lessons and move on to the next thing.
That's true.
Again, and that's very easy to do here. And very, very easy to facilitate.
That's right. So what do you think, how Dubai is aiding to the creativity and innovation? I mean, be it communication or be it any other field of your choice.
I think Dubai is a good facilitator. I think we've got a number of different places where people can meet up, and they're diverse, from bespoke meeting centers, almost like where we're in now. The Rove Hotel has meetup spaces. So on one level, we've got a lot of opportunity to get together, and I think that's important. If you're looking at setting up a business, if you're a creative, if you're a business venture person, you need to be able to meet other people. So I think that works really well. I think it's affordable and fairly easy to find services that can help you navigate the forms and things to get licensed and whatnot. But what's really important, and I think is to point out, is that you don't necessarily need to go to all these different services. They make it easier. But the Dubai government, for example, they make it really easy to get licenses at very, very affordable prices that a different service, there's going to be a consulting premium that they put on it. It's small. It's still entry point's very affordable. But you don't necessarily have to do it. If you're willing to do all the running around, which is very little because you just have to go online. But if you can do all that. So I think, I don't just think, I know that, especially when we talk Dubai, that this place really sees itself as a site where ideas can go from that kernel in your mind to, hey, let's rapid prototype it and try it. And if it really takes off, boom, you've got also an infrastructure to make it happen. If it doesn't, again, following on the words of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, if you don't succeed, when you fall down, get up where your head is, take all your lessons and keep going.
Beautiful.
And I think that's built into the DNA of Dubai. And everything that they're doing from the Crown Prince on down is, let's help you succeed.
That's true. I mean, what you said is so powerful, and it is so motivating for everyone who wants to get into this market and gets going. That failure is not something that should stop you. It should just keeps on going. So what do you think in communication, especially in this part of the world, how far you think that startups are the part of this growth and infrastructure which is all around, and communication startups are being part of it?
I think there's a lot of room still, and I think communication's a big thing. So when we talk communication, are we talking socials, are we talking video, are we talking audios, are we talking flip books, and so it's a big area, and I think in some cases organizations, companies, and things that might avail of services that one might create, we're in a time period where, again, and maybe we've always been in this time period, I just think it just speeds up and it gets faster, where things are happening and possibilities are materializing at such a pace that organizations aren't sure how to use them. They aren't sure how it fits into their older model, these new ways of thinking. So I think there's enormous opportunity, but the challenge is you're going to spend a lot of time convincing people that they need your services to make this work, and that might be dealing with YouTube Shorts. Now, YouTube Shorts have been around, but they've only started to be monetized in the last month. So I'm dating myself if we're looking at this, but they're very new as a tool. Does a company necessarily know why they should be using YouTube Shorts as opposed to just using Instagram Reels, or I'm using TikTok? Is that good enough? There are some compelling reasons to be on YouTube Shorts, and one of them is Google and the fact that it feeds into the Google ecosystem, right? And
that's true.
So, and if anyone uses Google products, they know the amount of data that you can collect and leverage from these products. So do companies know this? Do they realize they need to be doing it? Do they realize they need to be making YouTube Shorts? Maybe not. So is it something that someone could be working on in a startup package? Absolutely. But the challenge is creating that compelling reason for someone to say, hey, not only need you do this, but for a fee or for a service contract, I can help you do it. And look, my big thing is, in a lot of stuff that I deal with it, it's like, I don't want to do it for you. Like, I can do it for you. I don't want to. I want to teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
And teach you and help to enlighten you on this innovation process so that you keep doing it. And look, I'll come back and help you every now and then, but I want to provide that service. And that's a tough one. It sounds easy.
Yeah.
But it's tough.
So what do you think? How's the content creation market in this region? Do you think that corporates are into content creation in this part of the world?
I think there are some organizations that get it, but I think, again, the challenge becomes we have very diverse audiences. And so am I creating content for an Indian audience? Am I creating it for a European audience? And when I say, if you say European audience, which European countries? So it's not, a French audience is different than a British audience, is different than a Georgian audience, is different than a Swedish audience, right? Yeah. So this becomes a big challenge. And I think for some groups some groups have got a handle on it. They get it. But I think it's still a territory and an area that's ripe for a lot of conversation.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, what I have seen, probably you might have observed this as well, that content creation for Dubai, for its market, is far more less than the content creation which people create for Dubai for other markets. Yes. From Dubai for other markets.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't do a good job at home.
At home, yeah. But people fly from all over the world to create content in Dubai, and then use it, in
Yeah.
their home countries.
Yeah.
I mean, Dubai is one of those destinations,
Yeah.
people fly and they love to create content. So I think it's a really good place to create content. But for our local market, we haven't done anything much.
No, we kind of ignore it because we're looking at bringing
Yeah.
things in, and we forget that and I think we saw it during COVID. The local market fueled a lot of what was going on. Now, could it fuel it as with the millions of tourists come in? No, but it's still a very stable market that you need to embrace. And so but again, that opens up that whole dilemma with content. Is yes, you need to create content, but you have different pieces of content you're creating aimed at different groups.
That's true.
And understanding that. And that's the challenge.
One thing bit different from what we are discussing, but because you are from the academia and you have such a rich experience, 20 years plus of experience in education, what's your opinion and what's your go-to advice for any student who is looking up to taking studies in UAE?
I think we have a lot of options for where to study in Dubai at higher education. There are so many post-secondary education, so many schools, so many institutes. It's really bewildering, actually, the choice. And the price points are very different too. So you've got so many options. It's easy to default to, okay, what are the main things that I'm going to study, and say, okay, what do I want to do in the future? I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to work in fintech, so I'm going to take a business and economics degree and blah. And that is probably really sound advice, but I think my advice to any student is, you don't know where you're going to end up 10 years from now. And you might love fintech today, but you might hate it tomorrow. You need to have a well-balanced education. So if I'm studying business, I need to study other stuff. I need to study some science. I need to study some literature. I need to study some history. I need to study some sociology. Because at the end of the day, all of those topics are going to blend into your knowledge pool that's going to help you with that entrepreneurial thing that you're doing, whether it's fintech, whether it's water conservation, whether it's opening up a food business, a food truck. All of these things are going to go together, and you don't know where you're going to be down the road. And I think too many students peg themselves into these narrow areas, and once they do an internship and they go out into the world, they then might realize, wow, I spent 4 years studying public relations, and then I went and worked public relations in a particular area. I hated it. What do I do? I've got a PR degree, but I don't want to do PR anymore. And it's like, well, you've got the degree. And I think there's a wonderful quote from, of all people, Sylvester Stallone, saying, what's the purpose of education anyway? And it's a scene from a show called Tulsa.
Oh, okay.
And so Sylvester Stallone's in this show and he plays a gangster.
Oh.
And he's talking to a protege beside him. And he's telling the protege, go to college. The protege goes, why would I go to college? And so Sylvester says, look, you go to college for one reason and one reason only. You're going to college for 4 years, and you're going to show up, and you're going to attend, and you're going to do a bunch of assignments, and you're going to hand them in on time, and then you're going to repeat it and do it again and again and again, so that when you graduate and you go to a company, they have a reasonable chance of expecting that you're going to show up, that you're going to do your work on time, that you're going to show some initiative, you're going to get it in, and you're not going to mess everything up.
Yeah.
That's why you're going to university, so that you're ingrained into
a system.
a process. And hey, you've got to research, and hey, you've got to be able to talk about things, and hey, you've got to be able to explain it, and hey, you've got to be able to write. But where that's all going to take you after you've graduated could be in wild directions. So the more exposure you've had to things, the better your chance you have of being able to live and flourish with opportunities around you, because you can talk a little bit about math and a little bit about science, and you understand the core ideas that are going on in a creative's mind. Someone says, I don't get creatives. Well, did you ever study poetry? Well, if you study a little bit of poetry, you're going to understand creatives a little bit better, because you're going to say, okay. And so it's diversity. I say to students, be diverse.
And I think this is what Dubai provides, the diversity, not only in the education, the courses which they are pursuing, but the market itself. It's so diverse, and they get to meet so many different kind of people. That learning itself is great in here.
Yeah.
Superb. So take a deep breath. Yeah. And one final advice for anyone who wants to do business or work or live in Dubai.
Be realistic. And it is really easy to look at the videos, to look at the images, to go to the web pages. And Dubai is a wonderful place. Don't get me wrong. I've been here 23 years. My kids grew up here. They've gone to school back in Canada. My wife and I have both flourished here in our careers. But be realistic. And if someone says to you, if things seem too good to be true, they probably are. Be realistic in your expectations. Are you going to have to work hard? Absolutely. This is not an easy place. Are you going to have to work hard to get your idea together? People are critical. People are cynical. There's a lot of people doing startups. So there's a lot of things you got to think. You got to plan it out. Come and visit so that you get an idea. What's it like on the ground?
Yeah.
Who am I actually going to be pitching this to? Who's my intended audience, whether it's here or abroad? Can I really make what I want to do work? And I think being realistic and honest with yourself will really set you up for when you land and you've done that homework and you realize, it's going to take me a year to do this and I'm going to have to live for a year without a stable income. I better have that resource available, or I'm going to be living in an apartment with 5 other people because I can't afford my own apartment in that first year. Be realistic. Be realistic. And I think as soon as you do that and really focus in on what your goal is, and if your goal is just to go hang out at the beach all the time and parties and this, you can find all that, but that is going to get in the way of you realizing your goal. So you need to be very realistic about what you're going to do. And if you do that, you can succeed.
Yeah.
But I think the other side of it is, and something that I mentioned before, is as you're pushing forward with your idea, be open to the reality that you might have to change it. It might need to evolve a little bit from the seed that you've had in your mind to, okay, now I'm in the real, I'm in the wild, and the seed works, but it's gonna have to turn 90 degrees to make it really work. And so being open to that change as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you do that, I mean, it's very broad and basic, but I think anything can work if you've got the right mindset. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They think, oh, this worked really well in Toronto, or this worked really well in Mumbai. I'm going to make this work. It'll bite for sure in Dubai. It's like, probably not.
Yeah.
Like just because it works somewhere else does not mean it's going to work here. And so just being really realistic and thinking, okay, what do I got to tweak to make that work? And if you do that, you're going to be successful. And success doesn't necessarily mean money. But are you going to be happy? Are you going to make it work? And is this thing of yours going to flourish? Absolutely. There's no question in my mind. But I think too many people aren't setting themselves up mentally for that success. They have unreasonable expectations.
Yeah. That's super.
And I think as soon as you do that, I mean, I see a lot of happy people who are and they work hard. I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who are frustrated because the problem with entrepreneurship is we want it to go fast. It's not fast.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear successes and people have success stories, they don't often tell you all of the backstory.
Yeah.
And how many years did they work on this until they got to that place where suddenly we've reached critical mass and it's flourishing. Yeah. So it's going to take some time. Yeah. And be ready with that time and be ready that you might have to pivot or you might have to abandon it. Be realistic.
Be realistic.
Be realistic.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, James, for joining the interview. And it was beautiful having you. Probably we'll see you in the next version again.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, James.